Freaky Tales is a 2024 American film written and directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, and it stars Pedro Pascal, Ben Mendelsohn, Jay Ellis, Normani, Dominique Thorne, and Jack Champion. I was interested in this movie for a few different reasons. It did initially kind of go under my radar. But first, I really do enjoy a good anthology. I love anthologies. I don't know if it's my, if it kind of, references my, I don't want to say like, paying attention is hard, but I do enjoy smaller, chunks and smaller stories. And same with books. Like, I love reading anthology, love H.P. Lovecraft. Stephen King had some great anthologies. Many writers, especially those old pulp writers and stuff. But anyways, getting off track here. But I'm also a sucker for like 80s throwback type movies. Although I did assume that this was going to be a horror movie, which it mostly isn't. It's more of an action movie with some slight supernatural twists. So as in some anthologies, I would use like Trick or Treat as a really good reference point. So like a lot of the characters here cross paths with each other during certain segments. Some of the stories intertwine a little bit. And it also takes place in Oakland circa 1987. So I was talking about, being a sucker for 80s throwback stuff. So 1987 Oakland, which is cool. I'm originally from the Bay Area. So, and there's also like this mysterious green glow around the city. Which is kind of really the only, or one of the only horror references in this. There are some other little things too, but anyways, so it's split up into 4 chapters. The first, titled "Strength in Numbers," the Gilman Strikes Back, and is essentially about a punk rock club fighting back against neo-Nazis. This might sound, super simple, like super simple story, maybe even overly simple, but it definitely isn't at all what I was expecting, but it serves a definite purpose in setting up a tone here that will kind of run throughout the rest, which is the fact that this movie takes an overt anti-Nazi stance. And at this point, look, I don't talk politics on this channel really, but at this point, maybe subtle hints every now and then, but at this point in 2025, if you want to call, being anti-Nazi woke or whatever, just get fucked. So this is a pretty fun segment, nice and violent, and I'm more than okay with the writers here wanting to punch up and not down. My only complaint is really, I think, the digital blood, which I always hate, no matter what movie it is. And there does, from what I noticed, there did seem to be some practical gore kind of throughout the film. But I think maybe extra digital blood was added from time to time. I'm not really sure. And chapter 2 is called "Don't Fight the Feeling," which is in its own way kind of similar to the first chapter, and it focuses mostly on rap duo Danger Zone, who are invited to perform with rapper Too Short, who I didn't expect to show up in this movie, so that was cool. And actually I learned that the name of the film, Freaky Tales, is actually the title of a Too Short song. So, obviously the writers are fans. So Too Short was a legendary California rapper, so it was kind of a cool, urban touch that suits 1987 Oakland. And now for those of you that aren't familiar with his music, he was a very controversial rapper back in the day. He had very misogynistic lyrics, especially for the time. And I think he was kind of a pioneer, like in that kind of rap. And that's not me criticizing his art or anything. I'm just saying. So anyways, his performance with Danger Zone kind of turns into a rap battle and kind of like a girl power moment that I fully back. I actually give Too Short a lot of credit for showing up for this, we all soften up as we get older. So yeah, this is all about, 2 black girls putting their heads down and kicking ass, not being kept down by, shitty cops, Nazis, or even Too Short himself. So chapter 3, "Born Them Back," is where things, for me, kind of started to pick up. As cool as those first 2 chapters are, maybe it's Pedro Pascal, maybe it's just because I liked the story a little more. So Pedro plays like a sort of like mob enforcer type guy who wants out of the crime life. His wife is pregnant and he wants a fresh start with like a normal family life and all that. So he ends up in the crosshairs of someone from his past, also with a personal vendetta, not associated with his line of work. Well, sort of. Anyways, I'm not going to spoil it, but so also his employer, you know, classic situation where you know, I don't know if he was a hitman or whatever, but he was so good that his employers are unwilling to let him go and want him to just, you know, just keep doing another job. So yeah, so that becomes a thing. But the story wraps up with a really clever ending, I think, like showing that Clint has a moral code and, you know, he's forced to make a really tough decision. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Pedro. I've said that before, and I thought he was like pretty believable as like a street tough thug, you know, and I think he could do something cool with a character like this, like a full movie or whatever. The twists and turns were also pretty cool, and this chapter was a nice kind of setup for the final chapter. Now, chapter 4, The Legend of Sleepy Floyd, is by far just the crown jewel of this whole movie. I just loved how the main character is Sleepy Floyd, played by Jay Ellis. Sleepy was an NBA basketball player back, I think, in the 70s and 80s, something like that, for the Golden State Warriors. And this is just like a brilliant idea for an action hero. His character's family was attacked by the same neo-Nazi gang from the beginning, and they kill his girlfriend. So it turns out the Sleepy Floyd's skills go further than just basketball, because he also has some sort of like supernatural martial arts abilities. So yeah, naturally Sleepy is gonna, you know, go after the Nazis, and this scene alone just made this whole movie worth watching. I definitely got like classic kung fu movie vibes, a little bit of blaxploitation, and actually on that note, throughout the movie there are like cool little references to stuff like Scanners and Pulp Fiction even. So I'm giving Freaky Tales a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's a lot of fun, and I liked it a lot. I think it had some solid rewatch value. Characters are fun, you know, the references were cool, and I also enjoyed the themes of redemption and, you know, standing up to tyrants and the strong anti-Nazi message. However, there were some things holding it back for me a little bit, like the CGI blood, like I said, and overall I found the writing to be just a little bit clunky. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.